This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Flowify. Flowify is far and away the best piece of mortgage technology that I have used. I was one of the first users back in 2013, and it was a game changer when it came to upgrading my client experience. At its core, Flowify is the simplest way to streamline the document collection process with your borrowers. The user interface is simple to use and intuitive, which is great for client interaction and experience. If your borrower can browse and upload an email, then they can use Flowify. It creates buckets of what is needed, what is pending, and what we have, so you can avoid all of the back and forth and the "I already sent you that 5 times" conversations. It automates reminders. It's cloud-based, so you don't have to download a big piece of software that slows your computer down. You can access it anywhere you can get online, or even through the Flowify app on your smartphone. The milestone updates provide a simple one-stop communication portal with all parties in the transaction, including buyer's agents, listing agents, escrow or attorney contacts, and transaction coordinators. We've seen it cut down on status calls into our team from realtors and borrowers by about 80 to 90%. There's so much that Flowify does, it's actually hard to keep up. Just recently, they've updated their 1003 loan application to an interview-style loan app instead of just a fill-in form web form. I just did the demo, and it is awesome. I really am excited to get started on it. It's the perfect complement to your CRM and your LOS. If you're like me and your company uses Encompass, it communicates seamlessly with Encompass to avoid a bunch of the double entry work. There's embedded DocuSign within the system. There's account check so you can link to your client's bank records so you don't need to get statements. It goes on and on. So get more efficient. Your processors will thank you. Your underwriters will thank you. Your bank account will thank you. Sign up today and get 25% off your first 4 months by going to flowify.com/sauce. That's FLOIFY.com/SOSS.
And when a realtor comes in and you're like, hey, look, I'm not trying to get all your business, and I tell them up front, I go, I am not perfect for every client, they're blown away, right? Yeah. They're like, wait, everyone tells me they can do FHA for some home buyers and jumbo loans. And I'm like, no, that's not true.
You are listening to the Loan Officer Strategy Session podcast, where top producers answer your mortgage origination questions. To get your questions answered, check out our Facebook group, Loan Officer Strategy Sessions, or submit direct to the website for upcoming episodes at lostrategysessions.com. Now, here's your host, Andrew Sauce.
Welcome to the Loan Officer Strategy Sessions podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Sauce. Today on the show, we have Chris Fenoglio with Finance of America Mortgage out of Seal Beach, California, just up the road from us. Chris is a really good friend of mine. Actually, my former boss. I used to work in his branch for a few years when I first moved to Southern California before I ventured out on my own to start my own branch a few years ago. So still keep in touch with Chris, and he really has a unique business model in that he takes producing branch manager kind of to the next level. He creates most of the relationships with his realtors, and he hands a lot of those relationships off to some of the loan officers in his branch. He retains enough for him to personally do over $100 million in production each year over the last 4 to 5 years, but then still runs a branch that funds 50 to 60 million a month. He's got 25 loan officers underneath him, about almost 70 production staff. So don't ask me how somebody producing $100 million a year has the time to run a branch of roughly 70 people, but he does. So he is one of those people that really gets the most out of each day. We talk a lot in this podcast about being the inside loan officer versus the outside loan officer, the business development person versus kind of the loan structurer, and some of the differences there, and sort of having a bit of self-awareness around what you are and then modeling your business plan around that. We talked about how he has his daily routine that allows him to be as efficient as possible. On top of all this, Chris has 2 little twin boys and a 6-month-old son as well. And so probably packs the most out of each day of anybody that I know. Just a really great guy. We had a really good conversation. I think that you will enjoy it and get a lot out of it. So without further ado, please enjoy my good friend, Chris Fenoglio. Okay, welcome to Loan Officer Strategy Sessions podcast. Today on the show, we have Chris Fenoglio with Finance of America. Chris, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Andrew, for having me.
So Chris and I go back a bit. Chris is my former boss, and mainly competitor for top loan officer in the company when I used to work at his company and in his branch. So Chris is a $100 million plus producer every year for the past, 5 years probably, right, Chris?
Correct.
And he has an interesting model in that he is a huge producer, but also manages a giant branch. So I think that's mainly what our talk is going to focus on today, is how you balance all of that managing with originating. I think most people who learn about your business are pretty impressed with how you can balance that. So let's talk a little bit about some of those challenges. So first, though, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got into the industry, how you started in mortgage, and sort of what your background is and how you got here.
So like everyone, you just accidentally fall into this industry. Right out of college, I got a job at Wells Fargo as a personal banker. So I was opening checking accounts, doing equity lines, and all that fun stuff at the age of 23. And this is 2001, pre 9/11. And the mortgage guy that was in the office, great guy, loved hanging out with him, sports fan. We'd always hang out, play basketball after work, and just shoot the shit. And 9/11 happens, obviously, and then interest rates start dropping. And when I worked at Wells Fargo, we had like quotas of mortgages, referrals of 3 a quarter.
We know about the quotas.
Of course you do. And so what happened was I would have to work one Saturday a month when I was a personal banker. It was just what they made us do. And it was always like the 1st or the 15th I always got stuck on. And on those days, everyone would come in and make their mortgage payment. And so I sat behind the teller line, and then back then people would come in with a coupon book and they'd just make their payment. And I would sit there and look at their interest rate, and I would basically go, hey, you know what? You're paying 7%. I think rates are 6. Do you want a 6% rate? And they're like, oh yeah. And I'm like, okay, great. I'll have the mortgage guy call you. And then, so I'd literally sit behind the teller line and collect 7 or 8 of them. He'd come in Monday and be like, all right, you got to call these people. By the way, I quote them 6%. He goes, you did what? I'm like, I don't know. You told me it was like 6. I heard you talking on the phone last week.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, it depends what their loan to value and FICO. I'm like, what's all that? Anyway, long story short, after 2 months of me giving him more referrals and loans than he's ever did in his lifetime, he asked me to join his team as a junior loan officer, and that's kind of how I fell into it. I said, it sounds fun. And plus, he would show up at 11 and leave at 3 o'clock every day. I was like, that's the life. And he drove a Jaguar, right? I was like, this guy's my idol. Anyways, that was not my role. My role was in at 8 a.m., and I didn't leave until 8 p.m., so that wasn't fun. But I learned a lot.
Yeah, I'll bet. And so then when did you join a real mortgage company?
That was good. So I was Wells Fargo until March of 2007. Great timing to jump ship. Went over to a company called First Horizon. The person that I joined, I actually did a couple mortgages for them. And they were a great person, and it was a smaller shop, and they were closing purchases in 10 days. And anytime I had trouble at Wells Fargo, I'd just give them a call and say, hey, look, we can't do this loan. He would knock it out in literally 7 to 10 days. And I realized that I needed to change my business and become that guy that everyone calls and says, hey, here's a loan I can't do. And so I joined First Horizon. And that's really when I started to learn to become a mortgage person. It was right around 2007. And then so 7, 8, and 9, obviously everyone's toughest years, but I didn't quit. I kept going at it. I learned how to do CalFHA loans. I was doing what we call today triple stacks. I was doing that back in 2007, 8, and 9. Wow. And that's how I cut my teeth on loans.
It sounds like a nightmare. For those who don't know, a triple stack is a first, a second, a third, a down payment assistance, a credit card advance. What else? This is 2008, 2009, 102% financing. Yeah.
I remember the first was 6.875. The second was like 7.5, and the third didn't have it was a forgivable interest rate if you stayed in the house for 3 years. It was crazy, but
it took 90 days to close.
It took forever to close. But guess what? We were the only offer.
The realtors hated you. Yeah, but they had a buyer.
Right. Yeah. And they're like, hey, this house has been on the market for 60, 90 days. Yeah. I'm like, well, what's another 60 days?
Yeah, exactly.
So
that's when you started building your realtor base and started to become a really originating loan officer. Did you run a branch at this point at First Horizon? Were you under their branch?
So I came under First Horizon. I was there for 6 months, and then I moved to Seal Beach, and it was really a branch with just me and one other person.
Yeah, just like a little satellite.
Just a tiny satellite, myself and one other person, and this was 2008. Obviously, no one really wanted to open offices, so I was able to get above first team office over here in Seal Beach, and rent was, I want to say, $800.
Yeah.
So it was worth it for them. And then that's how we started. And then started with one person, then I got another one, and just slowly grew the branch. And honestly, the goal wasn't to grow the branch. It was just to help me with my own production. So what I did was I found, first person I hired, a guy named was Ken Holtz, older guy at Wells, was really good at loan packaging. And he was pretty much retired and getting laid off at Wells because he just didn't do enough volume, but he was really good at technician of a loan. Yeah. And I needed help because I was getting so many leads. I hired him. And then he got super busy. I mean, he made President's Club in 2009 just off of everything I couldn't do.
Off of your table scraps.
Busy. Yeah. Right. He's like, all right, I got it. Then came Javier, Joanne, and a couple others that are still with me today. It was honestly to help me. It was just because I had so much volume coming in, and I was like, hey, if you just come here and sit in the desk, I just need you to answer the phone and reply back to people, because the number one complaint is no one answers their phone.
Yeah, exactly. So. Yeah, that's great. So you really grew through, you had so much organic stuff coming in. This is going to be a theme, I think, to your career, or what I know about your career, is that you just keep growing your organic reach with different realtors and bringing up a business where you don't want the service levels to suffer. So you bring in other people and you sort of build them up. Then they turn those customers into referrals, into repeat business. And now all of a sudden, fast forward a few years later, and you have a real branch. Yet you're still producing at 70, 80, 100, 120 million a year of your personal volume. And obviously you've got staff that does a lot of that, but I know you, and you're in the loans. Like, you're not just taking a name and number and passing it on to your staff and then going playing golf. You're like structuring deals, and you've got a big team, but you're like me in that you like to talk to the client. You don't like to outsource that piece of it.
No. I like putting puzzles together, right? Yeah. It's a puzzle, and that's my favorite thing. And so I don't ever see myself walking away from that.
Yeah. So you just basically cherry picked the relationships that you like, that you know you can feed you enough personal business so that you are still originating and still relevant to your staff, and then you're giving away these other relationships. You're building them up, giving away these other relationships to people that you trust, and that's endearing your loan officers that are underneath you. It's giving them a lot of value because they know that they've got these relationships that you help them get.
Correct. Yeah. And the other thing is this, is, the older I get, the smarter I get. I also know what a realtor, if we're going to get along really well. Yeah. Right. I'm big into the DISC profile. I have them take a DISC profile. Most of them, if they're at Keller Williams, they already have one, so they can send it to me. Yeah. And I sit down with them and I go, and I'll pick one or two other loan officers. And when we do the interview, I go, look, I'm going to be perfect for this type of client, but Javier is really good for this client. Greg's really good for this type of client. I want you to use us. I don't care what loan officer you use, but make sure you match up the personality of your buyer to the best loan officer that can help and facilitate the transaction and give you the best service. Yeah. And that's really, I changed that model probably like 3-4 years ago. And that's how we're getting more business. I'm in every meeting with the realtors, but they hardly ever use me. They're using someone else on the team now. Yeah. And so that's your scalability is, you're getting paid on all of those loans that close. Obviously a smaller amount, but you're getting paid on, it's much better to get paid a little bit on. What did your branch fund last year? 482 million.
So almost a $500 million. Right. Almost a $500 million, and you got paid on every single one of those loans. And out of those, only 20% were yours. Were your originations, where you actually talked to the client, which is obviously an impressive amount. It's a full-time job just to do that, and you've got full-time staff to do that. So it's an interesting way to scale, is where you just focus on growing the number of relationships that you have, and then servicing those relationships with, what started out as junior loan officers, but in reality would be top producers at a lot of other companies. I mean, I know Javier, I know Joanne, I know all these people because I was at that branch, and they all would be top producers at most other branches. Yet you have them as people that you've sort of helped support, and then now they're up on their own. So it's a really interesting model that you have. And I think where I would struggle with that model would be the time management of all that. most people are only good at either originating or structuring or managing or whatnot. And I feel like sometimes I've got a little bit different model because I don't want to manage all these different personalities and whatnot. So how do you balance that?
That's the hardest part of the job, is actually managing everyone else. This is the way I look at it. And I'm really their partner, right? And I think that because I originate, I get away with a little bit, right? So I don't have to pay as much attention, only when it gets on fire, as they see I'm going through the same struggles they are, or when we run into an issue, I'm running to the issue. And so I'm fixing it on my loans, which clearly is going to be fixed on their loans. And the other thing is, so we have 7-8 President Club members here. And the way the branch is set up is I manage those 7 or 8 all the time. And whatever they need, I'm there, beck and call. But they all have teams, and they're managing their teams.
Yeah.
I don't get involved with their other 3 or 4 loan officers or assistants or processors. And I'm more coaching just on how the team is ran. And then the other thing is we all work together, right? Richard has a certain system that's working, and then he shows it to the rest of us and goes, hey guys, why don't you do this? And then we're all look at it and go, hey, that's a great idea. Some of us go, it doesn't work for my team. But I think it's the people in the office have now became leaders, right? When you were with us, Andrew, it was you and I, right? Yeah. We were really the leaders, right? You ran your own mortgage company within my own branch, right?
Yeah.
And so now that's kind of where we're at now. Is it's actually a lot easier for me because now they're at the same level I'm at. You know, Eric Miller did 96 million, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
4 years. He was a realtor of mine.
Yeah.
He was a realtor off the street. We took and turned him into a $96 million producer.
It's insane.
And Eric and I, we don't have to have these long conversations. They're very short and to the point. Here's what I need. This is what I need to do. What if I do this? And a lot of times they're bringing me the ideas. Yeah. And I'm going, yeah, that works. Why not? Let's try it. And let me know if it works. And if it works, maybe I'll try it. And if it doesn't work, it's a good thing I didn't try it and you did.
Well, there's definitely that level of respect. You can have somebody who's coming to you who's, let's say, a $50 million person who, again, would be top producer in, I would say, 80-90% of branches across the U.S. And they're number 7 in your branch. And they're doing less than half of the volume that you're doing. And you're coming to them as a manager saying, no, we can't do that, or yes, we can do this, or here's why this is, versus an empty suit, let's say, who's not originating, who's saying, this is what you should do. And back in 1994, when I did 50 million, this is what I did. I think it rings a little bit hollow. And sometimes I think, especially people who are producing at a high level, like respect other big producers who have that like current day knowledge of what's going on. And they also know that you have their best interest at heart, because anything that you improve at the branch level is going to improve your origination. So you're very cognizant of not like cutting corners on that stuff. So that was one of the things I definitely enjoyed about being there. And one of the things that I miss about not being in a big branch like that is not having that sort of camaraderie around being able to bounce ideas off each other. I think it's probably one of the reasons I started this podcast, is because I sort of miss being able to go shoot the what with everyone in the office about, what's going on, what products are working, like how we're talking to clients. And so I think having these conversations sort of helps me get some of that out of me.
Yeah. I mean, I'll give you a great example. I walked in today a little late, and Janelle was having a problem that was blowing up on her loan. And she went over to Eric. She went over to Richard. They both looked at it. And Richard goes, Janelle, do this, this, and this. And she goes, light bulb turned on. And she goes, oh my gosh, that's going to work. Right? Yeah. That's what's happening now in the office. Yeah. Is we're all helping each other. And the other thing, and as you know, Andrew, this is a very small area, Seal Beach, Long Beach, right? Huntington, that we all work in. It also helps each other that we have these amazing, great top producing loan officers, and we're all at the same company. We're helping each other get our offers accepted.
Yeah,
that's
there's a
really
reputation.
What's amazing right now is we'll have a listing agent that works with someone in our office, and there'll be 3 offers and 2 of them at our own office. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And then we're like, all right, whose turn is it this time?
Yeah. Well, I do cross approvals for a few people in your market, and they won't even have me cross approve any Finance of America offers because they know that they're solid. I'm like, they're good. Don't worry about them. Who is it? It's Chris. Yeah. Oh yeah, make him cross approve.
Yeah. I think you made me cross approve recently, Andrew.
I did. I turned him down. I did the loan for free.
In this market, I'm surprised you didn't lose money.
Right, exactly. Yeah. You talk about really some like alignment with the realtors who you choose to work with and using DISC. So what's your DISC and what sort of DISC profiles do you align with and who do you work well with?
So for me, my disc profile obviously is a high D and actually a high S. Little I, which is very strange because, in this industry, it's one of those things where I'm really good on the phone and I'm acting, right?
Yeah.
That's not really my personality, right? You know how you get put in a situation that you're uncomfortable in? My I goes to 99 because I'm faking it, right?
Yeah.
And so, and then my C is pretty, I think it was like 40%, but my I is actually really, really low. So when people look at that, they look at me going, oh, he's not the friendly type and doesn't want to go out and shoot the shit. And I don't, right? I want to come in my office and work and I want to have a professional relationship. Now, some of the realtors want to be your best friend and, it's hard because you only can be in so many places at once and real estate is really lonely. Right?
Yeah.
It's a lonely business. If you're a realtor, it's lonely sitting in open houses by yourself and stuff.
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm looking for top producing realtors that don't have time, like me, right?
Yeah.
That go, look, I just need a business relationship where I can send a client to you. I don't ever have to worry about it. And you text me and email me and just send me the stuff. And I'll give you a great example. I got a client. She's great. Her name's Jamie Lindbergh. Awesome. Husband's great. He's the high I. She's the driver. 2 years later, I've done 30 deals for him. I run into him at Captain Jack's and John goes, hey, it's Jamie. And he's like, my wife, you guys have met? And I'm like, actually, we've never met. She's my favorite realtor because she told me the first day, goes, don't call me. Don't write me long emails. I want one-word emails and just a text. And I just want you to do a really good job on my clients and I'll keep the business coming.
You're the perfect loan officer for her.
Right. And I'm like, I love you. You're perfect.
That's funny. Yeah. And we know other top producers, maybe or maybe not in your branch, who like to write very long emails. And
that's true.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I think some people love that. I think some people would be turned off by the short, abrupt email sent from your iPhone that comes back, right? But it's about alignment. It's not about like one personality fits all. And I think you sort of hit on this before. It's a great point that the longer you've been doing this, the less scarcity you feel around having to work with every single person, and you have less better relationships, meaning less relationships, but much better relationships because they fit a lot better with you. And it's not to say that that person is a great relationship for everybody, because she wouldn't fit with that person who's going to write the 900-word email for every last thing. But there are people who are going to really appreciate that person who takes the time to do that too. So it's about figuring out who fits well with you. And it's not always necessarily the exact same disc profile that you have. In fact, there's probably some complementary ones. It's about finding the type of people. So what I would recommend to people do is, I'm a big fan of disc. Take your disc profile, figure out what you are. Have the 5 people who you work with, either staff or other loan officers if they work underneath you, or the realtors or referral partners that you have them take it, or if they haven't already. I'll bet you that a lot of them have similar profiles. And then that's who you should be searching for. Now, not everybody has the luxury to be able to pass off people that don't have the right disc profile for them, right? So like when you're first starting out, sometimes you're going to have to kiss some frogs, right, to get to the princes.
But, that's where the team comes in, right? Having multiple people with different personalities. And the other thing is, here's what's great is when I go out and we meet realtors, I'm interviewing them. They're not interviewing me. I got 30 questions that I ask them about them and personal business and how they run it. And then I can come back to that after that conversation and go, okay, so from what I got from what you like, your communication style is text, you don't like emails, da-da-da-da-da. Well, here's my profile, here's Eric's, here's Joanne's. Yeah. We're going to be the best for you. Now, your clients may not be that way. So you got to let us know, and then we got to match it for that. And when a realtor comes in and you're like, hey, look, I'm not trying to get all your business, and I tell them up front, I go, I am not perfect for every client, they're blown away. Right? Yeah. They're like, wait, everyone tells me they can do FHA, first-time home buyers, and jumbo loans. And I'm like, no, that's not true.
Yeah, they're licensed for it. But
they're licensed for it, but they're not going to be good at it.
Yeah, exactly. So if you have those triple stacks, then send them to Chris. And if you have the nice, clean, easy jumbo deals, send them over to Benchmark, Andrew Sauce.
I like the plug.
Yeah, you have to. So talk about... So your balance of work-life balance, I think, is such a personal thing, right? First off, you can't go home at 5 o'clock, come in at 9, go home at 5. If you are a super driven person and you feel like you're leaving stuff on the table, because you're going to go home at 5, be home at 5:30, and you're going to be grumpy. Right. So I think that having some self-awareness around what work-life balance looks like for you and then how that aligns with your family and what you need with that. So I know you've got kids. You have got twin boys, and you just had another baby a few months ago. What, 4-month-old now, right? 5-month-old?
5.
Yeah. And I'm the same. I've got a 5-month-old and a 2.5-year-old. And obviously those things change all the time. So you're always having to self-audit. What would you say is the biggest takeaway from what you've learned over the last 15, 20 years of doing this when it comes to knowing that you have to work really, really hard? There's no substitute for working really, really hard to get where you want to get, yet you don't want to blow through 3 marriages to get there.
Well, it's finding the right partner, right? I've been with my wife for 11 years now. And so I was in this industry when we met, and where my work-life balance now is today to where it was when we first started and we first had the kids is nowhere near, right? I could tell you after the kids were probably 1.5, 2 years old, she was ready to leave me. Right. And, we had I like to say, coming to Jesus meeting about it. And that was really my big thing. And I'm a big routine guy. So her and I kind of got on a routine and a schedule to make it work. And I am in the office every day before 9. And I leave here at 5:30, but we've had some, I call it house rules. So, and I'll give you a date. I wake up 5:36 every morning, I knock out emails, do some reading, do whatever I need to do, and try to go to the gym 3 days a week. And I'm off to work by 9. I sit my butt in my desk all day, work all day long. And then when I get home at 5:30, 6 o'clock, I turn off the phone. I put it in a drawer, don't look at it. And then I'm home and I'm there and I'm present with your family. You know how like you have your phone, but you're not present? You have to disconnect. Yeah. And it's good to disconnect for 2 hours. No one's going to die between 5:30 and 7:30 at night, right? Yeah. No one's going to die on the table.
And if there are realtors who say, no, I need to get a hold of you because we're writing an offer and we're going to lose out on it, maybe that's a realtor for someone else who's available between 5:30 and 7. So it's about setting up that expectation as well of, listen, I'm available, but these are my house rules, both when I'm at home and my relationship with you, and I'm going to need you to respect that. And just training them. And so often they think that they need you in that hour and a half, but nothing's not going to happen there. It's so rare that anything is really needed.
Well, the good news is, I've been building my team out, Andrew. So one of the things is I actually have someone that is on call all the time.
There you go.
So we take turns, and we can go into that later.
One way to solve it,
Right. Someone's available to send a DU and a pre-approval between those times if I'm not available. And now we can go into that. But back to the home life. And so I get home, I disconnect. I literally disconnect, throw the phone in there, have dinner. I have 3 kids now, help get them to bed. And it takes forever with twin boys. They just run around and do not want to go to bed. Right. And they run in different ways. And they just run around. And then you got the little one too. And it's about, 8:30, 8:45 at night. The house is finally calm. Right.
Yeah.
And then I'll go log on. I'll open up my phone, and usually there's nothing there. But if there's an email or two, I'll just reply right back to it.
Yeah.
Right.
So you're catching up, so it doesn't sit overnight, and then
so it doesn't sit overnight. And if there's a voicemail, I'll send a text at 8:45 at night, going, "Hey, can I call you tomorrow at 9? First thing." And everyone's like, "You replied to me at 8:45 at night." Yeah. So it looks like I'm working, right?
Sure.
Boom, and then go to bed. Next day, I wake up. First thing I do is get a cup of coffee, take a deep breath, knock out the first, takes 10 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Just knocking it out, getting your day set, and then do
mainly
that.
deleting.
Mostly deletes.
Yeah.
And then from there, weekends, now when I can go into the team, if you don't mind, is I've got a couple junior loan officers that get the weekends now. And I'm like, hey, look, you help me. I'm going to pay you on half these deals. I just don't want to work on weekends. Yeah. So when an email comes in and they need a pre-approval letter or something, it's your turn. You're on call 24/7 like a doctor.
Yeah.
And you handle it for me. Right. And they just CC me on everything.
So are they on your emails?
They can log in and see my emails and stuff.
Got it. Or have you trained your realtors that say like, hey,
so that's
this guy's on call, or do you do an out of office that says, hey,
no out of office. We just take turns that they can read my emails and reply out of it.
Got it.
But a lot of times they're replying out of their own email, going, hey, here's a pre-approval. Now I have realtors on weekends going to them directly when it's not their turn, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. But yeah, and it works really well because, look, realtors are working weekends. And that was my big thing. I used to fight with them all the time going, really, you need a pre-approval letter at 9 p.m. on Sunday night? And I used to, think logically, there's no way a listing agent's going to receive it at 9 o'clock. But I just kind of gave in. I go, you know what? They love the 24/7. It's all over. You watch $1 Million Listing. They say they work 24/7. How do you make it happen? Is you find these junior loan officers that need to work and they need opportunities, and you just give them some opportunities. And for me, it's quality of life. On Saturday and Sunday, I'm home all day with Sarah and the kids, and our relationship is so much stronger because I used to just sit on my phone all day.
Yeah, no, I know. I used to text you and I get an email back in 2 seconds or text back in 2 seconds. I'm like, what are you doing? So let's talk about email, because you and I are similar in that. Well, let me back up a little bit. I strongly feel that there are two main models of originators. There's probably more subsets of these, but I feel like if you get to a certain level, and I think that level is probably anywhere into that like 10 to 12 loans a month that you're funding, you have to choose who you are. You have to choose whether you are the inside guy or the outside guy. And the inside guy would be the person who's the loan structurer, who likes to talk to clients who are in deals, who's not necessarily great at going to glad hand with realtors at a broker open or going to open houses or setting up belly to belly coffee appointments with realtors. They'll go to those, but they don't like to make the 100 calls it takes to get to the 5, to get to the 1. So they're the inside loan officer structure. I think both you and I are, I know both you and I are of that model. That's what I enjoy doing. It's my favorite part of this job, is to actually talk to clients and solve puzzles and be in the office and make sure the office is running. And then there are what we call the outside loan officers, which are more like title sales reps. So so they're out generating relationships, doing high money making activities, really doing the sales activities to the referral partners who are going to send the actual deals into the inside team. So I feel like up to like 10 loans a month, you can kind of be both of those people, because let's face it, if you're doing 10 loans a month, you've got some time to do both. Once you get to that, you start fracturing and you generally neglect the outside duties, because nobody's going to neglect the loans that are in process, because that's real money right now. So what ends up happening is a lot of people plateau at that 10 loans a month, and plug in your numbers. Like in Southern California, that would be 3 to 5 million a month, and people plateau. It's really hard to get over that. In other parts of the country, that might be 10 loans a month, might be 2 million. I feel like people plateau because they can't do both and they don't scale up to do both. So I know that you're of the inside guy, right? You're not out at broker open and doing all that stuff. So you've hired for the outside role. So talk to me about how your like business development manager role that you've had for the last, Josh is just celebrating 5 years, right?
Yeah. So I'll back up. So one of the things I forgot to bring up is how I became really good at loans. So 2007 and 8, working on those loans, putting those together, there was no time for me to go out in the field. And so I actually hired, I think I was probably the first person in the world to have a business development person go out and get business. Were you around when Karen was here?
I joined right when she retired. Yeah.
Okay. So
I forgot about Karen. That's right.
I hired Karen in 2008 and said, go out in the field. And I gave her the Cal FHA triple stack flyer and said, pass this around and get people to call me. And I will structure these loans because no one else knows how to do them. And that's what I did, was I hired her, and she really helped build me. She got those appointments. She was knocking on the doors. Like I said, real estate's lonely. She would sit in the open houses with them and that type of stuff. And that's what helped build my business. That's helped get the brand out there. And then, so once she was, it was what, 2011, 12 you came on?
12, yeah. 13.
12. 13?
No, okay. 13, yeah, summer 13.
Summer 13, yeah. And then she was retiring, and then we hired Josh. When I hired Josh, I said, Karen would go out in the field and find me relationships left and right, and then I would do my dog and pony show and get them to use us, and it was great. I don't need that. I need you to service the realtors that already use us.
Yeah.
And that's kind of been his biggest thing, is really reaching out to them, asking them if they need anything, if they want lunches and this type of stuff. Josh would be the one that would go in my place for me. And he's been doing that now for the whole branch. And we actually now have 2 more, kind of like a Josh, in those roles, supporting the LOs and supporting the realtors in the field. And so I say actually everyone that works there doesn't really go in the field. They sit behind their desk, answer their phone, and return emails, and get back and give great service while we have outside reps kind of maintaining relationships. And what happens is when they're out there, they do run into other realtors that are unhappy, and they bring them in, and we try to figure out who would be the best fit for them. Sure. But it's not like they're bringing in 50 realtors a week. It'd be lucky if we get 50 appointments a year.
Yeah, I got it. But they're enriching the existing relationships you have by doing, helping them with marketing, doing co-branding, talking about strategy. Josh is a former title rep, and so he's got a ton of connections in the field, and so he would go out and really just promote. At the time was Alpine. You guys just changed to Finance of America. Would promote the branch and promote the loan officers. So,
every broker preview, anytime there's a party, some kind of event. Last December, Josh always says, I hate December. He came in and he was like, okay, in a 15-day window, I have 27 parties to go to, Chris.
He was hungover all of July or all of January, right?
Yeah, he was hungover every single day. Yeah. But that's the hard part. What I would say for a loan officer is you really have to decide what you're going to do.
Yeah.
Are you going to be the title rep, or are you going to be the guy that structures the deals or gal that structures the deals? You have to make a decision if you ever want to go to the second level. Yeah. Right?
Like you said, choosing one or the other. And I would say most people that I talk to that actually get to really, really big numbers choose the outside salesperson role. Having these conversations with a lot of really top producers, I would say if you took all the people over 100 million in Scotsman's Guide, however many that is, maybe 50 or 60, 70 people, something like that, I would say 60, 70% of them are not sitting behind their desk structuring loans all day. But that's who they are. Somebody who's a type A personality that's a natural salesperson, that's what they're going to gravitate to. I don't know that you and I are necessarily natural salespeople. I think we're tacticians. And I think we have a combination of skills that we can talk to people and explain how complex mortgage scenarios work, and we can actually explain them to lay people. And that's probably what our best skill is. So I think the important piece of it is knowing who you are and having some of that self-awareness around it, so that you're not trying to pigeonhole yourself into a model of what Chris Fenoglio does or what Andrew Sauce does or what Ryan Grant does or whomever who's out there kind of building up their model and knowing what you're good at and what you enjoy doing.
No, I agree with you. You have to decide what you want to do. And like you said, you're either good at building relationships or being the tactician that we are. And you just got to go for it. And then if you are out in the field, the people behind the scenes, they have to be amazing.
Yeah, you have to really hire for what you're not.
Right.
Yeah, you hire the opposite.
And that's the other thing is I know a lot of people in our industry are trying to make it automated, like the Quicken Home Loans, apply here, that type of stuff. And I'm finding out, like, my business I'll probably actually do more volume this year than I've ever done. And what it is the people are outsourcing the business, and I'm selling against it. I'm like, no, you're gonna work with me. I'm right here doing your transaction right now. And and they're like, oh, I'm using so and so's team, but I'm passed off to Marcy, and Marcy passed me off to Shelly, and Shelly passed me off to Justin. Yeah. And they're like, huh? You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's the part you have to be careful about. If you are going to be the person that's out in the field, you got to have someone behind the team that is the direct contact, where it's not 3 to 4 people being passed around to.
That's definitely the hazard that you have when you're out there. They want to talk to you. They feel like, okay, this is the person I built a relationship with. How come my clients are working with Susie? There's a way of positioning Susie so that she is seen as an expert. And like, there's a whole, I think people who do it well, like, really are able to use that to their advantage and say, like, listen, I have a team and they're all experts, and she's really good at this and I'm really good at this and whatnot. And there's other parallels. You don't see the doctor setting appointments, right? You see the doctor coming in, you've got the nurse, that whole model. So we've heard a million times. So here's where I struggle. And I wonder if you're still the same, because I know you struggled with this too in the past. We're the inside guys, right? So we're sitting here, let's say, taking orders, right? You've got people that are calling in. We want to be super responsive. We're helping files get through the process. We're not processing loans, but we're certainly maintaining pipeline. We're following up on leads. I get stuck in my email where I feel like email is the only thing I do. So have you figured it out yet?
I haven't figured it out, but I've got it down where, they love the response, right? Yeah. So I know there's a lot of people that say, hey, I log off for 2 hours to do this, do that. You know what I mean? My key is I try to stay on top of it and get it out of the way. I mean, probably right now, let me look. Since we've been talking, 131 emails.
Yeah.
But I know there's other people, in our industry.
You're not answering email while you're talking to me, are you?
No.
I'm going to send you one and I'm going to test to see.
No, I'm not. I have my back turned to it, but I keep
Good job.
I hear the
ding,
ding going off and just giving me anxiety.
Yeah,
anyways, it's just
how long is this podcast, Andrew?
No, I struggle, but I'm better than I have ever been at it.
Okay.
And I know you and Ryan, when we played golf, you guys teased me because you guys had people, answering a lot of your emails and passing it through. I do that on weekends. But there's times where if I need to focus on something, I just minimize it, right? And I'm like now, right? I'm not going to look at this thing for an hour.
Yeah.
I need to get through this file. And what's really helped me out is I actually hired someone that structures loans for me that's behind the scenes, even though I'm structuring it. Yeah. They're doing a lot of the structuring, and they bring it to me. And then I look at it, and now I'm the second set of eyes instead of me structuring the beginning now. And so now my time's freed up completely because that was all I did. I structured loans. I put puzzles together.
Yeah.
Well, I hired a young gal that's really, really smart, and she's like 26, and she gets it, and she's been with me 2 years now, and she's structuring loans, and now it's like a test between me and her to see if I can find something she did wrong.
Yeah.
Right? But guess what? I'm no longer running the credit, inputting the loans, reviewing everything.
I can't believe you're doing all that.
She's coming to me going, hey, look, self-employed, here's what I did on the SAM worksheet, da-da-da-da-da. Is there anything I'm missing? And now I'm just kind of scanning it, right? The doctor, right?
Yeah.
I'm walking in, looking at the chart going, okay, cool, this works. And then I get on the phone and I go over the details with the client, and that's really helped me out. Because I do feel like email and phone are the two things I probably spend most of my time doing.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. If you could spend, let's take the management piece out of it. Let's just talk to you as an originator for a second. And I know that there are management things that are required of you for, let's call it an hour or two a day, probably, of just putting out fires for other people, talking to ops managers, dealing with all that, right? So let's take the remaining 6 to 7 hours a day that you have as a quote unquote originator. If you could spend 6 to 7 hours doing one or two things, what would be your highest and best given the team that you have right now?
Just talking to clients,
right?
Potential leads, just winning them over. My highest and best use is getting them on the phone, going over their scenario, building rapport with them, and being able to explain a loan, being able to screen share and go over line by line the breakdown and educate the borrower. Because once I do that, once I get to the point where I have a great consultation with them, they'll never go anywhere else. And it's being able to free myself up to do more of those.
Yeah. Or to go deeper into the ones you have. Because what I feel like is I still do all those. There's nobody really that has those conversations except for me and my branch. The issue is that when I get busy, when I have other things that are not as important, but I feel like are urgent and they're taking up my time, you could feel yourself when you're trying to rush off of a phone call, right? Yeah. And you don't give them your full attention. I've started to really be present to when I'm doing that, slow down, turn around, don't look at my email, don't look at my computer, turn around, look out the window, give them your full attention, go a little bit deeper, because that is my highest and best. That's what I get paid for. I get paid to build rapport, right? It's hard to do when you're the inside person because there's so many distractions. On top of, it's not like your management duties are very distinct between 2 and 3:30. It's maybe an hour and a half a day, but it's 15 minutes at 9. It's 5 minutes with Eric at 11. It's spread out, right? So you're constantly having this interruption. So do you put up specific hours? I know you're not a huge time blocking person, but what do you like to do when it comes to sort of setting up boundaries so that you're not super distracted?
No one bugs me before 10.
Okay.
So if it's on fire, you got to wait until after 10. So, because once I get in the office, I got to knock my own personal stuff out.
Yeah.
And then from 10 to 11, I'm kind of available. And we kind of go, okay, what do we got? What needs the fund? What's the issue? Let me resolve it.
Yeah.
Right. And then we figure it out. Can Claire handle it? Can Mel handle it? Is this me? Yeah. Can we go? You know what I mean? It's one of those things. And I will say, though, the office is getting better. Right. The LOs are getting better, so we're not having as many issues. Ops team's getting better. I mean, everyone's starting to get better. So I'm not being pulled in 17 different directions when you were here. When you were here, I was losing my mind.
Yeah.
Right. But now it's to the point where we have more clarity. It is getting easier. Right. Loans are finally starting to get a little bit easier. People are starting to make common sense underwriting decisions, not like everyone's a criminal and they're guilty.
I think half of it is that there's maybe a little bit of thawing of guidelines, but I think mainly it's just that the guidelines have been really tight for so long that we just sort of know how to make it work now. Like, it's not a surprise. Right. I think for 4 or 5 years, we were like banging our head, but I used to be able to, what do you mean I can't do this?
Right. And the other thing is for me, loans come down to one thing: income. Right? If you didn't do your income right, you're going to get us in trouble, right?
Yeah, pretty much everything else can be fixed. I mean, some appraisal stuff sometimes, but like
appraisal, but that has to, I mean, we can't control that.
We can,
and you know, they either have the money or they're going to get a gift, right?
Yeah, right.
But it's the income. It's the income, right?
Always.
If we have a problem, well, now we need more money. Now we got to, you know what I mean? So the key is the income piece, which I'm really, really strong at. And we also have 3 underwriters in our office now. Yeah. So that is just, that's taking a load off of me. They come in and, and I always say, I think we could do that, right? Let's try it.
Yeah.
I'm like, walk over to Nick's office, walk over to Evelyn's office, let them see your tax returns or let them see your scenario and let them tell you what they're going to use. And then let's reevaluate what we're doing.
Yeah. No, that's huge. So how do you've got this big team that's supporting you, like when you're in a transaction. So I know you're doing a lot of the upfront stuff, right? Like, meaning I don't think you're still pulling credit and like structuring the file and pulling the, like,
I don't even
chasing docs.
Like, I don't know my username or password to even log in.
Perfect. But you're having the initial conversation, you're structuring the deal, you kind of giving it a roadmap, and then they get into escrow. How much interaction do you have once they're in escrow? Is it like a lot in the first couple days and then you pass it along and then you're only coming back when there's an issue, or?
First day, or once they go into escrow and we're ready to lock, that's when I'll jump on a call. We'll get on a call. We'll talk about, where we are. They kind of know because a lot of people are reaching out before their offer's accepted. And so we're just clarifying exactly what we're doing. Do we want taxes? Do we want insurance? I'm spending about 15, 20 minutes because I've already built the rapport. I've already won them over. Okay.
Yeah, it's a cleanup call is what I call that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a cleanup call, or it's a question call of, 30 year, 15, 10-1, whatever. What do we decide? What do we want to do? And I lock them in, and then I send them a nice little welcome email. And it's pretty much canned email that I just change a couple things. Here's your breakdown next step. That's what I call it, right? Yeah. And then I just introduce them, and I only introduce one person. Even though there's 6 or 7 working behind the scenes, I only have one person and myself communicating with them. And that's it. And I call them my loan partner. Never call them an assistant. Never call them. I go, my loan partner, Shelly's going to reach out to you, and she's going to go over the disclosures. If you have any questions, you can fire them to either one of us. We'll be able to answer them.
So even though you have other people that are doing like ordering appraisals and VOEs and all that stuff supporting you, they're not customer facing?
No.
Got it. So it's just you and Shelly the whole time?
That's it. They don't know anyone
because
else.
Because your processors are not customer facing?
Correct.
Got it.
And also now we're taking a lot of it straight to close with Shell.
I think when you have a big team underneath you, I think the big fear that people have is that, well, people are going to want to talk to me. They're going to feel like they're passed off. So the amount that you can minimize that. I mean, there's this yin and yang between efficiency of specialization, meaning like having more people do smaller roles, like the assembly line thing, and the efficiency of communication, which I feel like sometimes... So like I was at a much larger company when I left your company before I came here. I was at a much larger company. And the thing that I tell people about that company is that they were so efficient that they were inefficient. And by that, I mean, they were so specialized that if the file stayed on the tracks, it was great. Like it flew right through. But no file ever stays 100% on the tracks. And when it came off the tracks, it would just jam up everything because it wasn't quite there yet. So I think when you're setting up your team or when you're setting up a branch or an operation center, there's always this like push and pull between how much specialization do you want to have versus how efficient do you want the communication to be, and like single point of contact versus specialization. It's a hard thing. I don't think there's this right answer. I think you've probably hit the sweet spot for your volume. But if you were to double volume, where's the scalability? Yeah, that's the hard part. Like, do you then break up Shelly into 2 roles? Do you have more people in the transaction? So
here's where we're at is Robin, right? Mm-hmm. So Robin helps me
trader
overflow. Yeah, trader. So for I have Shelly will be interfacing, and she only carries 15 to 18 loans. I have
Yeah.
Marcy, and then I also have Robin.
Yeah.
And so I round robin them. That's why I said in my email, I just changed the loan partner around.
Got it. Yeah.
And so Shelly's not carrying 57 loans right now.
Yeah.
She's only
But it's
carrying
still,
18.
but that customer never knows that, there's other people on your team because they're only,
Right.
you're splitting
and
them up.
Correct. So Robin's not going to reach out on a Shelly file and ask for stuff.
Yeah. Got it.
So it's just breaking up it's a round robin system. Comes in. All right, Shelly, you're next. Next, Robin. Next, Marcy. And we just kind of rotate it and go through. And we try to keep everyone even with files. So we don't overwhelm them or stress them out. And then the other thing is just so after I have my introduction, Shelly has an introduction. Right?
Yeah.
She goes, hey, let's jump on the phone and write those credit inquiry letters, those address letters real quick. Yeah. And I just want to have a recap. Right. Yeah. And the other thing is what I do is I have a recap with Shelly or whoever is assisting on exactly what we're doing with the loan. And, the big thing is cash to close, where the funds are coming from and that type of stuff. And then she has
how you calculated income, like plan B in case it doesn't appraise, like all those things.
Correct.
Yeah. And the way I do that is actually what I call a cover letter email into my staff. And it's just like a form template where I just, every single loan, after I have the cleanup call, I'm filling that out and saying, this is what we locked, this is what we quoted, this is the type of loan we're doing, here's the red flags on the file, here's our things that could potentially trip us up. So that way everybody's kind of can go back and reference that when they need to. And actually, it's more for me too, because sometimes we get 20 days in and I'm like, wait, what did I tell that person? How was I fixing this? Like, how did I calculate income?
Right. Did I go LP 1 year? Or
I can't tell you how many times I've checked my own sent emails to figure out, like, what did I do? Oh, that's right. I forget. That's right. Now it'll all coming back to me.
And so back to that. That's kind of how the flow works. And the top teams and all the other LOs, they're kind of similar the way I do it now, right? And everyone's a little bit different. They have their loan partner doing different stuff. If there's questions on the CD or LE, after I've already explained it twice, I still handle those questions. I make, if the borrower reaches out, I go, hey, let's schedule some time and jump on a call. Take you 3 to 5 minutes. I can walk you through it, and I don't even need to see it in front of me. I already know what you're going to ask.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, it's the
tax transfer and
how come
title.
the payment includes the HOA and then it looks like it's double counting the impounds and on page one. Yeah, like there's all those. So, it's all the same point. Have you thought about? So I know another person that I talked to, I thought was a really great idea. Is they use a screen sharing, like a screen capture, in their loan closer. I don't know if it's exactly on their team, but it's somebody in the process who's sort of generating the CD, is actually going over filming a little 2, 3, 4 minute video saying and when they send the CD out and saying, hey, I'm Susie, and I don't know why I keep using Susie. I don't even know Susie. I'm Susie. I'm your loan closer. We're sending out the CD. It's going to need to be signed by tonight in order for you to close on Thursday. And here's what it looks like. Here's what's going out to you. Looks like your cash to close is $148,352. Make sure it comes from the Chase account. Like basically just going through a little script on the CD. And they said that has cut down on their calls of having to do those by like 80% because they're really only coming back with questions. So in the show notes below, if you guys look at the show notes below, I will link to the system that they use to do that. I'm going to have to go back and research who it is, but I believe it's Camtasia, I think is the screen share software that they use. But it's a really cool system, and it's got like actually a little picture in the corner of her like talking. So it's like a little split screen thing. So it's a pretty interesting way of doing it, I think, of using some technology for some efficiencies when it comes to stuff like that.
Yeah, send it over. I want to take a look at it.
Cool, yeah. No, I won't send it to you. You're my competitor.
I live 30 miles away.
I know, it's fine. I know. I want all the deals, though. So, well, Chris, I know we're coming up here on an hour, so I respect you and I really appreciate you taking the time to come on and share all the stuff. That's one thing that I've always been really impressed with you is as much business as you're doing and how innovative you are, you've never, ever, ever shied from sharing what you're doing, and you don't come from a place of scarcity. And half the time I think, man, I should still be over there because it is a lot of fun. There's a lot of things that I miss. So I will say that it was really great talking to you, and I really appreciate you coming on the podcast and sharing with our audience everything that you've learned.
You are more than welcome, Andrew, and there's always a place here. Remember, we're expanding to Southern California. SoCal, baby.
Got it. Chris, awesome. Thanks so much, man. I really appreciate it.
I'll talk to you soon, Andrew.
The information contained in this podcast presentation is for business and professional use only to assist real estate professionals and is not an advertisement to extend consumer credit as defined by Section 226.2 of Regulation Z. Arklatex Financial Services, LLC, NMLS number 22142 DBA Benchmark Mortgage makes no representations or warranties of any kind, expressed or implied, about the completeness, reliability, suitability, or availability with respect to the information, products, or services. All loans subject to borrower qualifying. Other restrictions may apply. Branch Manager Andrew Sauce, NMLS number 259002. Branch located at 140 Newport Center Drive, Suite 210, Newport Beach, California 92660. Contact the branch by calling 949-258-9555. Equal housing opportunity.